These are not Harfoots. I'm not saying that critically, like they're not my Harfoots. I'm saying, literally, these are not Harfoots. Tolkien describes Harfoots in the Lord of the Rings prologue entitled Concerning Hobbits, and in that prologue he tells us exactly what they are and exactly what they aren't. And what they aren't is this. Maya Govan and Melanine, and welcome to a relatively rare Tolkien Untangled Setting the Record Straight video. Now, I am not hating on the show, that's not what this is about. I am simply untangling Tolkien, which in this case is really quite straightforward, not much untangling required. And so what I'm criticizing here isn't really the show itself, I'm criticizing the dishonesty of that claim that appears before every episode, in which we are told most of the details and elaborations told herein are derived from The Lord of the Rings, its prologue entitled Concerning Hobbits, and its appendices A through F. That is the official claim. And look, in my mind, it is absolutely not the duty of the viewer to know the source material back to front. Absolutely everyone is entitled to watch the show. You don't have to be an expert in the lore. Enjoying a TV show should not be stressful. I firmly believe that. No one is obligated to be a Tolkien scholar in order to appreciate Tolkien's works. Except, maybe, the creators of a Tolkien adaptation, especially one that claims at the beginning of every single episode to be derived from Tolkien's writings. And the reason this frustrates me a little bit is because in the case of Harfoots, that claim is so dishonest, it's not too far away from like an outright lie. You know how on, I think, all Amazon TV shows, they have like a little trivia list, don't they, for each episode of each show? Well, some of what's written in the Rings of Power trivia is absolutely spot on, but a lot of it is misleading, and some of it's just plain wrong. And guys, what's written in the trivia about Harfoots is perhaps the most egregious example of this. So, how are Harfoots portrayed on screen, and what does the official Amazon trivia have to say about them? Well, first things first, Harfoots are wanderers, right? That's like their whole thing. Not all those who wander are lost, no one walks alone, they migrate, they're nomads. Harfoots are a wandering people. Pretty much every part of their storyline so far has revolved around that. And in the trivia section for the first episode, we get two more details about the wandering Harfoots, both of which come with references to Tolkien's actual writings. The first piece of trivia tells us that long before the Hobbits became a single group of people, whose most ancient legends hardly looked further back than their wandering days, there were halflings called Harfoots. They were travellers of highlands and hillsides. Pretty straightforward, right? The second piece of trivia seems equally innocuous. Harfoots are little people, and while the later Hobbits ranged between 2 and 4 feet tall, in their ancient days they were slightly taller. They were beardless, bootless, and browner of skin. Now, to be fair, that last sentence is correct. Tolkien totally did describe Harfoots as being beardless, bootless, and browner of skin. Those last 3 words have been quoted relentlessly on the internet over the past few months, but Tolkien totally did write them, so fair enough, I guess. Interestingly, however, something that isn't quoted quite so relentlessly, and something that certainly isn't included and referenced in this trivia section, is the very next paragraph of this prologue. Tolkien wrote that Harfoots had much to do with dwarves in ancient times, which is an interesting detail. Maybe we'll see Harfoots hanging out with dwarves in future seasons. But then Tolkien wrote, they were the most normal and representative variety of hobbit, and far the most numerous. They were the most inclined to settle in one place, and longest preserved their ancestral habit of living in tunnels and holes. So, my frustration isn't so much that these wandering Harfoots aren't what Tolkien wrote, it's more that the complete opposite of these wandering Harfoots is, in fact, what Tolkien wrote. Harfoots are the most sedentary breed of hobbit. Breed is the word that Tolkien uses. They are the most representative of what we imagine when we hear the word hobbit, and the only thing we know about their ancient Second Age ancestors is that they settled in holes and tunnels. Furthermore, in the same piece of trivia where we are kindly reminded that Harfoots are described as beardless, bootless, and browner of skin, we are also told that Harfoots are little people, and while the later hobbits ranged between 2 and 4 feet tall, in their ancient days they were slightly taller. Once again, this isn't different to Tolkien's description, it's the complete opposite. Tolkien wrote in Concerning Hobbits that the Harfoots were browner of skin, smaller and shorter, and they were beardless and bootless. It blows my mind that the skin thing and the bootless and beardless thing is included in the trivia, but the words in between, smaller and shorter, have been translated as slightly taller. Harfoots aren't slightly taller than the hobbits we're familiar with from The Lord of the Rings. They are famously the smallest, shortest, most normal, most representative type of hobbit, and they are the most settled. Also, one more thing, I do not appreciate the phrase, long before hobbits became a single group of people, there were halflings called Harfoots. Firstly, hobbits are not a single group of people. Tolkien put a huge amount of time and effort into building hobbit culture and showcasing their variety and diversity in the Third Age. In fact, one could even argue that literally the whole point of The Hobbit, at the core of Bilbo Baggins's character, is the dichotomy between two different types of hobbits. Bilbo's father was Bungo Baggins, and until Bilbo came along, Bagginses were a very normal, hole-dwelling family of hobbits. They never went on adventures, they never did anything unexpected. Really, the only thing we're told about Bungo Baggins is that he was solid and comfortable, and he excavated the tunnels of Bag End. The Bagginses are the very definition of Harfoots. However, Bilbo's mother was Belladonna Took, and the Tooks are not Harfoots, they are primarily Fallowhides. And Fallowhides are the way more adventurous type of hobbit. I don't think I can overstate the extent to which The Hobbit is all about Bilbo discovering whether he is the son of Bungo Baggins, who wants nothing more than to return to the comforts of his hole in the ground, like a Harfoot, or whether he's the son of Belladonna Took, who wants to wander abroad and see mountains and discover what adventures the open road will lead him to. So no, hobbits did not become a single group of people. And secondly, I do not enjoy the implication that before there were hobbits, there were Harfoots. That's not true. Hobbits did not come from Harfoots. Harfoots are one of the 3 types of hobbits, along with Fallowhides and Stoors. However, that being said, I can fully appreciate that there is potential for a really interesting story that could be set in the Second Age, featuring sort of ancient proto-hobbits, who wander the wilds as nomads, stand a good bit taller than later hobbits, and may even feature a main character with an elvish name like Elanor. That storyline could totally exist within the lore that the showrunners have the rights to. It could be really, really cool, but it's not a Harfoot story, it's a Fallowhide story. In Concerning Hobbits, we are told that Fallowhides are taller than any other group of hobbit. They are by far the most adventurous. They are the most friendly with elves. They prefer to hunt and gather rather than farm or till the earth, and they are more skilled in language and song. Isn't that a pretty spot-on description of the creatures that the show insists on calling Harfoots? Isn't it a bit mad that the showrunners have proven they're familiar with that Concerning Hobbits prologue? They're able to quote the exact language of browner of skin, beardless, and bootless, and yet they are willfully ignoring all the context that surrounds those words. They know what Tolkien wrote, they are claiming that their adaptation is derived from Concerning Hobbits, among other things, and yet in the very next sentence they are proving that that's not the case. If this doesn't bother you in the slightest, then that's absolutely fair enough. If you just want to put on a TV show after coming home from work or whatever, then you do you. I am not trying to ruin this show for anyone, I'm not trying to convert anyone. All I'm trying to do is point out that this show is lying to its audience. It's not just making changes or adding things that aren't in the source material, it is referencing the source material, it's claiming that the adaptation is derived from said source material, and yet in multiple instances, they are knowingly, willfully, and very dishonestly taking that source material And they're not doing something a little bit different from what Tolkien wrote. They are doing the complete opposite of what Tolkien wrote. In my mind, it's all just very, very silly. Anyway, that's my rant about Harfoots and the source material. If you enjoyed it, hit like and hit subscribe to make sure you don't miss any future videos. And as always, until next time, my dear friends, much love. Stay groovy and navaer mellyn.